My dear, today, a story is unfolding that no one expected. A signature was only seconds away from changing two lives forever. A wedding was about to become official. The papers were already on the table, the families were smiling, and everyone believed the past had finally been buried. But then, a message that had been silent for years suddenly appeared again. A message carrying your name. A message that was never supposed to be seen again. Listen carefully. There are moments in life when destiny refuses to stay silent. This was one of those moments. Your soulmate sat in a large room filled with soft conversations and nervous smiles. The marriage registrar was adjusting the documents. The future spouse sat beside them, waiting for the final signature. Family members were already discussing the wedding celebration. Everything looked perfect on the outside. But inside your soulmate's heart, something felt wrong. For weeks they had tried to convince themselves that moving on was the right thing to do. They had told everyone that they were ready. They had smiled when people spoke about the future. They had nodded when relatives asked if they were happy. Yet deep inside, a strange emptiness remained. Don't skip. As your soulmate picked up the pen, their phone vibrated once. They ignored it. Then it vibrated again. One of the relatives laughed and said, "Turn that thing off. You're about to start a new life." Everyone smiled. Your soulmate smiled too. But then the phone vibrated for a third time. Something inside them suddenly became uneasy. They looked at the screen. And in that single moment, the entire world seemed to stop. The message was from an old account. An account that had been inactive for years. An account connected to a conversation they believed had disappeared forever. Their hands started shaking. The message contained only 7 words. "I never stopped waiting for your return." Those words were attached to an old conversation. A conversation with you. The room became blurry. The pen slipped slightly from their fingers. The future spouse noticed. "Are you okay?" they asked. Your soulmate could barely breathe. Because the old chat had somehow reopened. Thousands of forgotten messages were still there. Every memory. Every promise. Every late-night conversation. Every dream you both once shared. Everything. They had believed those messages were lost forever. But now they were back. And destiny had chosen the worst possible moment to bring them back. Don't skip. One message caught their attention immediately. It was a message you had sent years ago. "I know life may separate us for a while, but if we truly belong together, one day you will remember this conversation before making the biggest decision of your life." Your soulmate stared at those words. Their heart began pounding. Because this was exactly the biggest decision of their life. The room suddenly felt smaller. The sounds around them became distant. Memories they had buried deep inside started returning. They remembered your laughter. They remembered the dreams you once built together. They remembered the promises that were never broken by choice, only by circumstances. And for the first time in years, they remembered how deeply they had loved you. A family member noticed tears forming in their eyes. What happened? Someone asked. No answer. Another person leaned closer. Is there a problem? Still no answer. The future spouse became nervous. The registrar cleared his throat. We can begin whenever you're ready. Your soulmate looked at the marriage papers, then looked back at the phone. The old messages continued appearing on the screen. A picture appeared. A memory from years ago. Then another. Then another. It felt as though the past itself had come alive. Their breathing became heavier, because suddenly they realized something painful. They had never truly let you go. They had only learned how to hide the pain. Don't skip. A final message appeared. It was your last message from years ago. If we are ever meant to find each other again, life will stop you before you make the wrong choice. The room fell silent. Your soulmate's hands began trembling uncontrollably, because life had just stopped them. At that exact moment, right before they signed the papers, right before they promised forever to someone else, the future spouse looked concerned. What are you reading? No answer. A family member asked again. Why are you crying? Your soulmate slowly looked up. Their eyes were filled with emotions they had hidden for years. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, they said something no one in that room expected to hear. I don't think my heart ever left the past. Silence. Absolute silence. The pen slipped from their hand and rolled across the table. No one moved. No one spoke. Because everyone suddenly understood that something much bigger than a simple message had just happened. Destiny had returned. And it had returned carrying your name. Don't skip. The room remained completely silent. No one knew what to say. Your soulmate's words seemed to freeze the air itself. I don't think my heart ever left the past. Those words echoed inside the room like a secret that had finally been spoken aloud. The future spouse slowly lowered their hand. The smile that had been on their face only moments ago disappeared. One of the relatives nervously laughed. This is just wedding stress. Put the phone away and sign the papers. But your soulmate didn't move. Their eyes remained fixed on the old messages. Years of memories were unfolding in front of them. A picture appeared on the screen. It was a photograph you had sent long ago. A simple picture. Nothing expensive. Nothing extraordinary. Yet seeing it again made their chest tighten. Because suddenly they remembered the person they used to be. The person who believed in forever. The person who once dreamed only of you. Another message appeared. You once promised me that if life became difficult, you would never make a decision because of pressure. Their breathing became uneven. Pressure. That single word struck them deeply. Because pressure was exactly what had brought them here. Family pressure. Society pressure. The pressure of moving on. The pressure of pretending they were healed. The pressure of acting as though the past no longer mattered, but now the truth was impossible to ignore. They were not healed. They were simply tired of waiting. And tired people sometimes choose the wrong road just to end the loneliness. Don't skip. The future spouse finally spoke. Who are you reading about? No answer. Is there someone else? Still no answer. The room became uncomfortable. One of the older relatives frowned. We didn't come here for drama. Another person said, everyone has a past. Forget it and sign. Forget it. Those words felt impossible. Because every message on that screen was pulling your soulmate back into memories they had tried desperately to bury. They remembered the night you both spoke until sunrise. They remembered the dreams you shared. They remembered the promises. And then they remembered the day everything fell apart. The misunderstanding. The distance. The silence. The circumstances that separated two people who never truly wanted to be apart. Tears slowly rolled down their face. The future spouse looked shocked. I've never seen you cry like this. No answer. The registrar gently pushed the papers forward. We can wait a few more minutes. But your soulmate wasn't looking at the papers anymore. They were looking at a voice message. A voice message that had never been opened. The date showed it had been sent years ago. Their hands began shaking again. They didn't even remember this message existed. Someone in the room asked, "What is it?" Your soulmate whispered, "I don't know." Then they pressed play. Don't skip. Your voice filled the room. For a few seconds, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The message was soft and emotional. If you're listening to this one day, it means life separated us in a way I never wanted. But I need you to know something. I never stopped believing in us. I never hated you. I never blamed you. And if destiny is kind, I hope it brings us back together before either of us chooses a life that doesn't belong to us. Silence. Absolute silence. A relative slowly sat down. Another person looked away. The future spouse's eyes filled with tears. Because even they could hear the sincerity in your voice. The message continued. And if you ever reach a moment where you're about to give your heart away while still carrying mine, please stop. Please listen to your heart one last time. The recording ended. No one spoke. The room felt different now. As if the past had stepped inside and taken a seat beside everyone. Your soulmate covered their face with both hands. Years of emotions came crashing down at once. The love. The regret. The memories. The questions. The endless what-ifs. Everything. For years they had convinced themselves that you had forgotten them. But this message proved otherwise. And that realization broke something inside them. Don't skip. The future spouse slowly stood up. Their voice was calm. I need to ask you something. Your soulmate looked up. If that person walked through that door right now, would you still sign these papers? The question struck everyone. The room became silent again. No one dared answer for them. Your soulmate looked at the marriage papers, then at the phone, then back at the papers. Finally, tears filled their eyes, and they whispered one heartbreaking truth. No. The room froze. One relative stood up immediately. What are you saying? Another person shouted, think carefully. But your soulmate couldn't lie anymore. Years of pretending had finally come to an end. The future spouse closed their eyes. A tear rolled down their cheek. Then they smiled sadly. I think I already knew. Everyone looked at them. They continued speaking. I always felt there was someone you never stopped loving. The room became even quieter. I thought time would erase that person from your heart. Another tear fell from their eyes. But I was wrong. Your soulmate could barely speak. I'm sorry. The future spouse shook their head gently. No, don't apologize for loving someone. Those words shattered everyone. Because they were spoken with kindness instead of anger. Then they looked at the marriage papers and slowly pushed them away. I don't want to build a forever with someone whose heart still belongs somewhere else. Tears streamed down your soulmate's face. For the first time in years, they stopped running from the truth. They finally admitted it. Even after all this time. Even after all the distance. Even after all the pain. They still loved you. And at that exact moment, their phone vibrated one more time. A new message appeared. A message from an unknown number. Only 6 words were written on the screen. I think it's finally time we talk. Don't skip. The entire room stared at the phone. No one knew who had sent the message. Your soulmate's hands were trembling so badly that they almost dropped the device. I think it's finally time we talk. 6 simple words. Yet those 6 words felt heavier than everything that had happened in the last few minutes. A family member leaned forward. Who sent that? No answer. The future spouse quietly stepped back and looked at your soulmate with gentle eyes. You should read it. Your soulmate swallowed hard and opened the message. Another text immediately appeared. I never thought this day would come. I never thought I would have the courage to contact you again. But something in my heart told me that today was important. Their breathing stopped. Because deep inside, they already knew who it was. Another message arrived. I don't know where life has taken you. I don't know if you've moved on. But before I close this chapter forever, I need to tell you one thing. The room had become so silent that even the ticking clock could be heard. The final message appeared. I never stopped loving you. Tears instantly filled your soulmate's eyes. They could barely see the screen anymore. One of the relatives slowly sat down, completely speechless. Another covered their mouth. The future spouse closed their eyes for a moment. No one had expected this. No one. Because sometimes life waits until the very last second to reveal the truth. Don't skip. Your soulmate looked at the date beside the message. It had been sent only 10 minutes earlier. 10 minutes. As if destiny had calculated every second. As if fate itself had refused to let the marriage happen. Then another message appeared. I know I probably shouldn't have written to you. I know years have passed. But last night I found our old conversations, and for some reason I couldn't stop thinking about you. Something kept telling me that I would regret staying silent. Your soulmate broke down completely. Years of pain finally came pouring out. All the nights they had wondered about you. All the times they had almost searched for your name. All the moments they had pretended not to care, everything returned. The future spouse walked closer. Their voice was soft. Is it them? Your soulmate slowly nodded. The room remained silent. Then, unexpectedly, the future spouse smiled sadly. I think destiny has made its decision. Those words brought even more tears. I never wanted to hurt you, your soulmate whispered. I know, the future spouse replied. Then they gently picked up the marriage papers. They looked at them for a long moment. And then they closed the folder. The sound echoed through the room. This wedding cannot happen. Nobody argued. Nobody protested. Because for the first time, everyone could see the truth. Your soulmate was not standing at the beginning of a new love story. They were standing in the middle of an unfinished one. Don't skip. A relative finally spoke. What will you do now? Your soulmate looked at the phone again. There was another message. If you don't reply, I will understand. I only wanted you to know that a part of my heart never left you. A tear rolled down their cheek. For years they had dreamed of hearing those words. And now, when they had almost given up forever, those words had finally arrived. The future spouse took a deep breath. Reply. Everyone looked at them. What? Reply to the message. Your soulmate stared at them in disbelief. The future spouse smiled through tears. Some love stories deserve a second chance. The room became emotional. Even the relatives who had been angry earlier said nothing. Because sometimes the truth is impossible to fight. Slowly, with shaking hands, your soulmate typed a message. I was about to sign marriage papers when your message appeared. A few seconds passed. Then the phone vibrated. What? Another message arrived immediately. Are you serious? Your soulmate typed again. Yes. The reply came almost instantly. Then maybe destiny still has plans for us. Those words changed everything. Don't skip. Your soulmate closed their eyes. For years they had believed their story with you was over. But now they realized something beautiful. Love had never truly ended. It had simply been waiting. Waiting for the right moment. Waiting for the right truth. Waiting for two hearts to finally stop running. The future spouse walked toward the door. Before leaving, they turned around one last time. I hope you find the happiness you couldn't find here. Your soulmate began crying again. Thank you. They smiled softly. No, thank you for being honest before it was too late. Then they left. And with their departure, one chapter of life quietly closed. But another chapter had just begun. Your soulmate looked back at the phone. A final message from you appeared. I don't know what tomorrow looks like. I don't know if we can fix everything. But if there is even one small chance that our story isn't over, I would like to talk. Your soulmate smiled through tears. For the first time in years, there was hope. Real hope. They typed slowly. Our story was never over. A few seconds later, 3 words appeared on the screen. I was waiting. Your soulmate covered their face and cried. Because after all the years, after all the misunderstandings, after all the silence, the love they thought they had lost forever was still there. Still breathing. Still waiting. Still choosing them. And as they looked at the unsigned marriage papers lying on the table, they finally understood the message life had been trying to send all along. Some people enter your life for a season. Some people enter your life to teach you lessons. But once in a lifetime, there is a love that refuses to disappear. A love that waits through distance. A love that survives silence. A love that returns at the exact moment you are about to lose it forever. And on that unforgettable day, right before the pen touched the paper, destiny whispered one final truth. The wrong marriage ended, so the right love could finally begin. A few weeks later, your soulmate stood in a quiet place, holding their phone and smiling for the first time in years. The fear that had once lived in their heart was gone. The unanswered questions had finally been replaced with hope. Then a message from you appeared. Thank you for listening to your heart. They smiled and replied, thank you for never giving up on us. Soon after, the two of you met again, not as strangers trying to remember the past, but as two souls who had finally found their way back to each other. There were tears, long conversations, and moments of silence that said more than words ever could. No promises were rushed. No future was forced. But this time, both of you chose honesty, patience, and love. As the sun slowly disappeared behind the horizon, your soulmate gently held your hand and whispered, I almost lost the greatest gift of my life. You smiled and answered, some stories are delayed, not denied. And in that beautiful moment, both of you realized that destiny had never been separating you, it had simply been preparing you for the right time. Because the private message that reappeared after so many years was never an accident. It was love's final reminder that what is truly meant for you will always find its way back home.